And I remember that one moment when both my wife and I were so excited was when I received news from the United Nations that I was selected to go for an interview in Geneva to join the United Nations Compensation Commission. And that was very exciting news because it's something that we don't experience very much. And just to see a different part of the world, see a different part of work, and basically see what the United Nations is about.
Welcome to the third episode of AIAC's podcast series, ADR Corner, AIAC on Air. This series is designed to give our audience an intimate glimpse into the careers of experts in the field of international arbitration. Today, we have a special guest from Singapore who is one of the very best dispute lawyers in the world. He is well suited for heavy cases and is a superstar in the field of arbitration in Singapore. These are not my words, but some of the glowing testimonials received by Mr. Leng Sun, Senior Counsel. Welcome to the podcast and thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you very much, Vishnu. Thank you, AIAC, for the opportunity. When you started, Vishnu, I thought that you were having someone else as a guest. But that's the way too kind, actually, those comments. But very pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. And to kick things off, what we do over here, we don't introduce the speakers ourselves.
Right.
But the very first question I'd pose to you is, how would you introduce yourself to our audience? So, and briefly, if you could also talk about how you got into, how you decided to pursue a career in law. So if you could briefly just talk about that as well.
Sure. Well, I'm Leng Sun. My first name is Leng Sun. I am practicing as a senior counsel of the Supreme Court of Singapore with Duxton Hill Chambers in Singapore. I started from Malaysia. I went to University Malaya. Why did I study law? It's not a very inspiring answer, but in those days it was more a matter of a process of elimination. I couldn't stand the sight of blood, so I couldn't apply to do medicine. I wasn't quite sure that I would do my calculations correctly, so I didn't do engineering. And hence I end up in law because law is a very flexible career. And I think it was right because when I went to study law, I found it actually quite interesting.
That's very interesting, and the rest, as they say, is history. So, yes. If I could ask you, you began your academic career with a bachelor's degree in law from the University of Malaya, and then you went and did your master's at the University of Cambridge.
Yes.
So, what inspired you to take this academic path, and also if you can touch on your move to Singapore thereafter and why you chose Singapore?
Right. Well, I think that any Malaysian studying in local university would jump at the chance for wider exposure and to study in a place that we all kind of admire from afar. So after my first degree, I applied for some scholarships. I actually got 3 scholarships. The one which I took up was the Core Foundation Scholarship, and I managed to do my master's with that in Cambridge with that funding. But I was also a Pegasus Cambridge scholar. I told them I got a scholarship. They said, never mind, you just join our program, and that was wonderful because I spent some time with the bar in London and also with a big law firm in London as well as part of that program. When I was doing my master's in Cambridge, one of my classmates was Tan Cheng Han, and he was a lecturer in the National University of Singapore at the time. He says, why don't you come to teach in NUS? We're looking for people. And I thought, well, why not? Let's try something there. and he promised me an easier life than being a practitioner. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try, go to Singapore, and that's how I ended up in NUS teaching for 3 years before I decided that, well, actually I knew too little about the commercial world, about practice, to be that effective as someone teaching the law on commercial subjects and shipping. So I came out to practice again in Singapore after that.
Wow.
And it's, just to add to that, it's quite ironic that I end up doing disputes primarily, because when I was deciding what to study for university, my uncle told me, you should study anything except law because you do not like to speak. You don't speak. So not only did I end up studying law, I became an advocate.
And started arguing for a living.
And started arguing for a living.
Right.
Yes.
So, do you have any role models or inspirations that you had in the field? And also, is there a piece of advice or the best piece of advice that you think you have received, which has sort of held you in your career or helped you the most?
Well, it's not a single person. When I started practice in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, I was with Marcot and Dean, and now known as Raja Darren Low. I had a lot of fun there. We had partners and we had seniors, mentors that we look up to who look after us quite well. And I think they taught me very early on the role of a senior, and that is, it's not just to order someone around or to bully the junior, but actually to look after them. I had a lot of fun in that place, even though I didn't spend a lot of time there. And until now, I'm still on very good terms with them. They're still my friends. Then when I went to Singapore, I picked up the approach that leading practitioners take. I have many people that I look up to. I won't name names, but the work ethics, as well as the whole approach to the work product. And that is not merely a matter of it being good enough or good enough for Singapore, but it must be good enough. And especially in Singapore, and especially in the field of international arbitration, you basically have to be as good as anyone else anywhere in the world doing that kind of work. So that's something we strive to, might not accomplish it, but it's actually a very good standard to try for. One thing that I picked up from one of my mentors in Ang & Partners, which was where I went to after I left NUS, was from one of the partners, the founding partners, Mr. Goh Kok Leong. He told me, do not fight each case as if it is your last. And I think what he meant by that was, do not burn your bridges, fight hard, but fight honestly, and don't take it as if you are going to fight, win this case, and you don't care whether people trust you or not after that. So I think that's very good advice to the whole approach on the practice of law.
So you've had a very accomplished career spanning over 3 decades. If I was to ask you to provide us a brief overview or a summary of your experience thus far, how would you do that? And also, if there's any one defining moment or any instance that you remember which is sort of stood out and you'd like to point out to our viewers?
Well, I have kind of described my career track from the time I left Malaysia to do my master's, then to NUS to practice. And I remember that one moment when both my wife and I were so excited was when I received news from the United Nations that I was selected to go for an interview in Geneva to join the United Nations Compensation Commission. And that was very exciting news because it's something that we don't experience very much. And just to see a different part of the world, see a different part of work, and basically see what the United Nations is about. So that was quite exciting. I took it up, and I worked in the UNCC for 2 years as a legal counsel. My second son was born there. So I think that was a part of experience and memory that we still value because it was something different and it's a different place. Of course, Switzerland is lovely. Quite apart from that, I have also moved from a small firm to, at one point, the largest law firm in the world, Baker McKenzie. That in itself was also a very interesting experience. I made many good friends there, and I'm still very good friends with many of the partners there. Very interesting, very accomplished individuals, very capable. But more importantly, there is this thing they call the culture of friendship within the firm. So people are pushed very hard, there's KPIs and all that, with a view on the bottom line. But at the same time, people do take time to form friendships and have fun together. So eventually I left for various reasons. One thing being too much, there's a lot of conflict of interest in a big firm. And I wanted time to catch my breath and have more freedom to do what I want. So when V.K. Raja, formerly Court of Appeal Judge and formerly Attorney General, invited me to join this set of chambers that he has set up together with Toby Landau, I thought about it and decided to change to a barrister's model and join them. And currently we are known as Duxton Hill Chambers. That has been a complete switch from one of the biggest law firms in the world to being almost like a one-man show because we are also proprietors. I don't even have a secretary to manage my schedule or book my tickets. Period of adaptation. Eventually, I got used to it, and I'm very, very happy with the freedom I have, the independence that I have now. So that's a very a rough idea of what had brought me to the place I am today.
Right. It's something very interesting that you said about your time at Baker McKenzie.
Yes.
And I sort of echo that. It's very important to like the people that you work with,
Yes.
and be friends with them, because you spend so much of your time of the week,
Yes.
and your life at work. So it makes it all easier if you get along well together.
That's right.
So moving on, you have worked with a lot of arbitration institutions globally, holding senior roles in all of these institutions. You were also a member of the Pro Tem Committee for the AIAC, which was set up to advise the Center on the establishment of the AIAC's Court of Arbitration. So for you, what do you think makes an arbitration institution effective? And also, how do you think that the introduction of the court is going to help the AIAC become and establish itself as one of the top arbitration institutions globally?
I think, well, to be successful in international arbitration takes an entire ecosystem. The arbitration institution's success depends partly on itself, but also partly on the environment that it operates in. Having said that, I think one key factor would be the people. Okay? The structure is important, the rules are important, but if you compare the arbitration rules of different arbitration institutions around the world, they can have more or less similar rules. But what makes one successful and the other one not so successful, it's not actually the differences in the rules. It's actually the ecology that it operates in and how it is run, whether there's confidence in it. So the people are important because the people like yourself administering the arbitration has to be able to perform at a high level to ensure trust and efficiency. Okay? The Court of Arbitration as a model, I think, makes sense for AIAC going forward. Well, of course, we spend days debating it, and I can't reduce it to just 1 or 2 points. But the idea is that you have trusted experts helping you to make decisions with regard to the legal aspects of a case, to discharge the work that an institution has to do with regard to the case. And once you draw on those resources, I think your work product will be better. Eventually, trust will build up. And then it's easier to sell the institution as a place that people should arbitrate in.
It's no longer only one person who's making all the decisions, but a body of, like a quasi-judicial body, which is...
It can never be one person in the first place, because you can always have the head, but the head has to rely on a team of counsel. Case handlers in the institution are very important because they take care of the day-to-day details of the case. But there are times when you need more perspective, more experience to be able to deal with a problem that arises. And those are the resources that the Court of Arbitration can provide.
So you sit on multiple commissions, you juggle a lot of different demanding roles.
Yes.
And if I was to ask you, how do you manage your time, and how do you try and prevent it from affecting your work on a daily basis? You mentioned that you don't have a secretary at the moment. So are there any habits or tricks that you have picked up over time that you would like to share?
I think sleep is overrated.
I think it was a James Bond movie that said you have plenty of time to sleep once you die. So.
Oh, yeah, something like that. But no, seriously, do catch up on your sleep, and it's so important. I'm just a very curious person, I guess, and I guess that's also something that helps me to learn, because once you stop having curiosity, you stop growing. I'm curious about a lot of things. I'm curious about different subjects. I'm curious about people. I'm curious about different environments. And that's also why I'm active and I'm willing to participate in so many things. Something has to give, which means that I have less time to lepak, as we say in Malaysia. I kind of have to make sure that in a day, if I want to do certain things, that's what I will work towards. Even if it's leisure, even if it's hobbies, health, music, or sports or other things, those are not a waste of time. Those are important. But at the same time, you just need to juggle all those things together with your work in different committees. I actually like taking part in many of these different committees, commissions, and so on in different places, because I learn a lot as well. I gain perspectives from the people who offer their insights. At the same time, it's very satisfying because you feel that you have a say in how policies are developed and to shape the world that you are operating in. Yeah.
That's very important. Now, my next question is, you've held distinguished roles as both counsel and as arbitrator. So how do you manage the shift in mindset when you're sitting either as a counsel or an arbitrator? And do you think one role informs the other?
Definitely. Since I started sitting as an arbitrator, I have reflected on what I do as counsel a lot, because you begin to see from the other side of the table what actually works, what doesn't work so well. And one thing I found out as an arbitrator is that the adjudicator, whether it's a judge or arbitrator, really wants to get at the truth and make the right decision. Whereas counsel had always been quite preoccupied with advocating their client's case and one perspective. But sometimes you need to take a step back and see what would make sense to the tribunal, the judge, or the adjudicator. And hence, it is more important actually then to approach a case in that way, to look at both sides, take a broader perspective, and then find the angle that would make it more palatable for the tribunal. And it's not always just fighting as a matter of tactic, as a matter of black and white procedure. So that's something that I've learned from sitting as arbitrator. And having been counsel, when I sit as arbitrator, I have a lot of empathy with counsel because I know how tough the job is. So I try not to scold counsel. I don't think I've ever done that because I know the job is not easy. But you do need to keep them in check because you also know what counsels are up to sometimes. Yes.
So I'm not going to put you in trouble and ask you which role you prefer, but if I could ask you a bit of a philosophical question, in the sense when you look back, is there any sort of advice that you would have probably given your younger self, or something that you would have maybe done differently over these years?
Well, I wouldn't say that I would do things differently. To be very honest, I feel that I'm very, very lucky to be where I am. I can share it with the world. I'm not that special, but I've been very, very fortunate to be given all these opportunities to be where I am today. And it was just a series of steps that were not a natural progression. For example, being an academic in NUS, which I enjoyed, then working in a specialist shipping firm. I think I spent close to 11 to 13 years there, struggling at times, struggling a lot of times because we had trouble attracting people to the shipping practice to a small firm. But at the same time, you kind of pick things up, pick up a lot of legal knowledge in shipping. And they all kind of built on what you are today. If I were to talk about advice, yes, I think every young lawyer would encounter challenges for sure. It's not an easy profession. But then again, what is an easy career, right? There are no easy careers there unless you are taking on something which you just want to do out of pure love or as a matter of hobby. But there are not many people fortunate enough to do that. So if you want to succeed in anything, you just have to overcome obstacles and persevere. I think perseverance is probably the greatest strength that one can have. So if times are tough and difficult, just bear in mind that they will not always be tough and difficult. And through all the hard times, keep your peace with yourself. Importantly, remain true to people. As much as you can, be kind. And sometimes it's actually more important to be kind than to be correct. So I think that's something that I try to do. Okay, but maybe not everyone will agree because I tend to get impatient too.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that I admire about you is the way you write and how often you write. I must share this. I was sitting in my bedroom in Delhi during the pandemic when I read your article on the post-COVID world and how we proceed and the things moving forward. And never did I think that I would be sitting here and have the opportunity to be in a podcast with you. So how important do you think it is to contribute and to write? And if there was any sort of advice that you would like to give to the younger members of our audience?
I would encourage it. I think it is important for your own development when you write, because it forces you to think hard about an issue. And seriously, when you put things out there, you know that you'll be subject to the scrutiny of the world. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that you put in a credible piece of work. And that forces you to do your research and think about that issue. And that in itself makes you a better lawyer. If you think about it as a transaction, what do you get out of it? For people wanting to be known in this field, especially international arbitration, especially building a career as arbitrators, How do you get yourself known? How do you get yourself trusted as a thought leader and so on? You can do lectures, a lot of them, but why would people listen to you all the time unless you're already a big name? But then that's a chicken and egg question. Publishing something means that people can look at it and hopefully enjoy it. I'm very grateful for your bit of story. It's very touching, and I just feel very flattered. I can't quite remember what I wrote. And it says a lot for this world, right? That nowadays, when you write something, the potential for it to reach some places that you are not aware of is so great. That's the benefit as well as the risk. If you speak nonsense, you'll get circulated around the world as well. But I would say that in Asia, especially, Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, one thing that we, meaning I'm in the publications committee of the Academy of Law Singapore, one thing that we find in short supply is actually lawyers, practitioners, senior practitioners, or even junior ones who are willing to write, take their time to publish, take their time away from their practice. Whereas if you look at the English bar, the barristers do spend a lot of time writing and publishing. We just don't have enough of that kind of inclination among our lawyers here. It would be good to have more people sharing their knowledge.
Right.
Speaking of which, the second edition of my book on arbitral awards will be launched in August.
Right.
And it was very tough. So if you talk about time, I can understand the challenge because the first edition was published in 2011. And I've been chased for 10 years by the publishers, but it was just so hard, even updating and writing the second edition.
Right. So you are known not only for your legal work, but also for your pursuit in music. I believe that you play the saxophone. So is music something that helps you decompress from work? And also, are there any other hobbies or interests that you share that you would like to tell our viewers about?
Actually, I have a lot of interest. I'm, in fact, a part-time lawyer. I don't play the saxophone well. I like to play it. But I don't play it well. Yes, certainly, music is actually a big part of my life. I listen to music all the time. And my two boys have maybe picked that up. In fact, they are way more accomplished than I am.
Okay.
I've been telling friends that my older boy, who's doing his postgraduate in climate and sustainability in Sweden, wants to have a career in music seriously. He's released his album. He's going to give a concert in Singapore.
Okay.
The younger brother, who's studying in Japan, is into jazz drumming, and he's going to play in a gig in Fukuoka before he comes back to play in his brother's concert. So it's a big part of their life, and we have our little family band as well. So during the COVID time, they couldn't get away from me, so I forced them to play with me, and I call our band the Generation Gap. So it was a lot of fun. Those were special moments. I enjoyed that. I do have, I have a strong passion in martial arts. I've been doing karate for more than 30 years. I'm an instructor as well. And I've gone to train in Okinawa, occasionally in Tokyo because my headquarters is there. When I go for work, I will go to the dojo in Tokyo to train as well. So I really enjoyed that. And when I can't do karate, I will sometimes keep fit by doing other things like Muay Thai. But that's really not something that I should be doing, as my family tells me, you should act your age. It's getting harder and harder.
If I could ask you a quick follow-up question, what kind of music do you like? And if you have a favorite band?
I listen a lot to jazz.
Right.
Mainstream jazz, usually. The classics, the standards. But I also do enjoy a wide range. So sometimes I listen to pop as well, some rock. But always at home, there's usually some music playing in the background when I'm working.
Right. So my final question to you would be this: if there are a lot of young practitioners who are watching this video, and what advice would you give to a young professional who's looking to build a career in international arbitration?
Well, I say that I got lucky, so I don't think telling you to get lucky is going to help very much. But I would encourage you to take up this career in international arbitration. It's a fantastic area of practice. Why is it fantastic? Why do I like it? It's for something like today. I'm in Kuala Lumpur. My base is Singapore, but I make friends from all around the world. And it's truly the most international kind of practice in law you can get. In most places that you go to, you kind of practice almost the same kind of arbitration procedures because of the model law, because of the New York Convention, and there's a kind of synergy, a harmonization of practices. That's why you see international arbitration practitioners moving from place to place, representing clients. And in the course of it, you make friends in different countries. So I enjoy going to all these different places because sometimes I've made friends who have become family friends. So the thing to do with getting started, and this is a reflection as well of how I got started, something like what you asked just now. Do your homework, all right? Read up as much as you can, put in the extra bit of work to educate yourself, try to look for opportunities to publish something, to work in arbitration organizations like the Malaysian Institute of Arbitrators, Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Pay your dues by offering service, all right? And hopefully in all these conferences, there'll be some mentors, kind seniors who give you the opportunity to speak, as some of the seniors in Singapore did give me those opportunities in the early days. And of course, hopefully you get to work with experienced practitioners and pick up the skills along the way. I go back to what I said earlier, and that is things will get tough sometimes, but if you like the area, persevere. Fortitude is very important. And be nice. That's how you make friends in the arbitration circuit. Be helpful, be nice. Don't be afraid to share knowledge.
Be helpful, be nice. I think we have the thumbnail for our podcast today. Our viewers may not know this, but this was not something that we had planned. It was just so happened that Mr. Leng San was here for a hearing, and he has been extremely kind to give us the time and do this podcast. And personally speaking, I mean, I'm trying to act very cool, but it is a bit of a fanboy moment to have you to sit and to be able to ask you these questions. Right. Thank you so much for the time, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Oh, it was great fun. Thanks a lot, Vishnu.
Thank you.
Thank you.